Okay, now we're on our second set of 10 astronomers. Our 11th astronomer is Sir Isaac Newton. He was a key figure in the scientific revolution, addressing that all objects in the universe attract each other through a gravitational force. So the force of gravity depends on the mass of objects and the distance between them. So the law of gravity applies not just on Earth, but with all matter, with all objects in all of the universe. And this explains specifically and ties in with and why the planets orbit around a more massive object. This shows how the moon revolves around the Earth and the planets revolve around the sun, being held together, a gravitational force from another object. Then we have Edmund Halley. Think of Halleys Comet. He was a British scientist that reviewed historical comet sightings. And basically he recorded that about every 75 or 76 years, a comet would pass by. And he basically identified and suggested that sighting was the same comet passing the Earth about 75 to 76 years. And he was correct. So about every 75, 76 years, we would have this repetition of seeing this comet. The comet would then be named after him, and that is called Halley's Comet. Then we have Charles Messier. Messier is a French astronomer, and the focus for Messier is the 110 Messier objects, basically a record or catalog of comets and different star clusters. He also identified what a nebula was, and make sure you know this term, this definition. A nebula is a cloud of gas and dust in outer space, providing, and we'll talk about different nebulae, and these provide different colors and shapes and patterns. There's the Cat's Eye Nebula, there's the Horsehead Nebula, and there's many others. Then we have Sir William Herschel. Herschel primarily is known for being a composer / astronomer. He actually discovered Uranus, and we're going to pronounce it Uranus, not Uranus. He was actually going to name Uranus Georgium Sidus, which means the Georgian planet, after King George III, which was the king of England, is King George's star. Then we have Henrietta Swan Leavitt, who was an American astronomer who focused on the relationship between luminosity, which means brightness, and variable stars. Now remember, variable means change. So a variable star is a star that changes in its luminosity. So it gets brighter and dimmer. Edwin Hubble actually used a lot of her scientific breakthroughs and studies to apply to his. So there's a building on of past knowledge as we're seeing in all these astronomers. Then we have Albert Einstein. Now, Einstein was not an observational astronomer, but what he did apply, just like Sir Isaac Newton, he was able to apply something that tied in with astronomy, and that was Einstein's special theory of relativity that focuses on the speed of light as a constant. And he came up with the famous equation E equals mc squared, E identified as energy, m, which is mass, and then c, which is the speed of light. And this was able to tie in with the laws of physics, that these laws of physics are the same anywhere in the universe, and that the speed of light is constant. Then we have Edwin Hubble. He was also an American astronomer. He used Henrietta Swan Leavitt's information, built on that. He was one of the main important astronomers dealing with observational cosmology and astronomy. He actually improved on telescopes observing different galaxies beyond the Milky Way. The Hubble telescope, which is a large space telescope, was named after him. Then we have Carl Sagan. Now, Carl Sagan was very popular in the 60s and 70s. He actually not only was an astronomer and cosmologist, but an avid evolutionist, novelist, and a television series host. He actually hosted one of the very famous TV series at that time, which was called Cosmos. And he actually wrote a book called Contact, which in 1997 was a very popular movie with Matthew McConaughey and Jodie Foster. Then we have Stephen Hawking, who's very famous for the speech synthesized voice. He is also wheelchair bound because at the age of 20, he was inflicted with a motor neuron disease, which affected his muscles and nervous system. There was a movie recently made about his life. He's very well known for his knowledge of Einstein's general theory of relativity. He also suggests that space began with the birth, by the Big Bang, and that it will come to an end within a black hole. Hawking also predicted that black holes emit a radiation. This was then named after him, called Hawking radiation. Then we have Neil deGrasse Tyson. Very famous. He's a very famous American astrophysicist. If you look him up, primarily most of his talks dealing with the cosmos, and he's written many books, including The Death of a Black Hole, and he was also a presidential advisor.